Grandma's shocking discovery at 57 years old, and the truth will leave you speechless. Elena had always believed that her family was like a tightly woven quilt, colorful, warm, and comforting. But on a rainy Thursday, as shadows danced in her mother's dusty attic, she stumbled upon a relic that threatened to unravel everything. The old wooden chest stood bare, cloaked in cobwebs, like a silent sentinel watching over secrets long buried. Her heart raced. What could possibly be inside? Curiosity tugged at her, pulling her closer. With a trembling hand, she lifted the creaking lid. Instantly, a cloud of dust erupted, swirling like memories she had long ignored. Inside, letters fell out, yellowed and brittle, as if dated from another world. Their fragile edges whispered tales of love and betrayal. Next came faded photographs, faces she barely recognized, smiles that seemed both inviting and haunting. What had her mother been hiding all these years? As she sifted through the contents, her heart thudded like a drum, echoing in the attic silence. Among the letters was a journal, its leather cover cracked but commanding. The pages were filled with cramped handwriting, revealing a lineage tangled with power and deceit. Each entry was a slip of ice down her spine. What kind of family history had she inherited? Was that her mother's loopy signature at the bottom of a letter detailing a scandal that could shatter their pristine family image? It made her head spin. The word trust flashed like a warning sign. Trust was something she had given so freely to her parents, her husband, even her children. But now it felt tainted. Who were they really? Had they painted a flawless picture for her, all while hiding a dark truth? As she dug deeper, unearthed secrets revealed an unsettling connection to a powerful figure, a beloved family friend they had all admired. Her hands shook, clenching the journal as she faced a brutal realization. What if everything she thought she knew was a lie? A cold knot formed in her stomach. She was now the keeper of these secrets. The pressure mounted. Should she tell her grandchildren, those sweet souls who deserved a childhood free of shadows? Or should she bury the truth just as her mother had? The thought made her chest tighten painfully. How? Could she protect them without betrayal? Suddenly, the attic door creaked, making her jump. She turned to see Aunt Clara, eyes wide, clearly sensing the storm brewing in the air. "What's wrong, Elena?" she asked softly, her voice laced with concern. Elena felt the weight of heavy eyes upon her, as if the very attic walls were listening. Could she trust anyone with this burden? Just when she thought she could compartmentalize her secret, an old friend of the family unexpectedly knocked on her door the next day, his intentions hidden behind a friendly smile, a chilling omen of the chaos to come. She glanced back at the journal, dreading yet compelled to read on. The last entry sent electric chills down her spine, a cryptic warning that hinted at dangers lurking ahead. Was the truth worth the risk? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Elena's heart raced as she flipped to the last entry of the journal, her breath quickening. Words tumbled into focus, chilling her to the core. A warning about a betrayal that reached far beyond her family. Hints that even the most trusted friends held dark secrets. She felt the tattered edges of the pages prick her fingertips like tiny daggers. Outside, the storm intensified, rattling the attic window, mirroring her turmoil. Maybe this is all just a misunderstanding, she whispered to herself, desperately searching for a simple answer. Just as she went to close the journal, a loud bang resonated through the house. It echoed off the walls, jolting her from her thoughts. Was it the wind? Or was someone really there? Elena's heart hammered, unable to shake off an eerie feeling. She tiptoed toward the attic door. But before she could grasp the handle, Aunt Clara appeared, her face a mask of worry, eyes wide with fear. "Elena, you need to see this," Clara gasped, breathless. "Come quick!" With a racing pulse, Elena followed her. What could possibly be so urgent? They descended the staircase, and Clara led her to the family room, where an unexpected figure stood, bathed in shadows. It was Edward, the family friend, his demeanor calm, yet unsettling. "Edward?" Elena stopped, her throat tightening. "What are you doing here?" Before he could reply, her phone buzzed violently on the table. It was her husband's name lighting up the screen. A lump formed in her throat. Why was he calling now? Ignoring him would mean risking the fear already clawing at her. She swiped it up, but before she could say anything, a hasty voice erupted from the speaker. "Elena, you need to come home. It's about your mom." Her heart dropped. The urgency in her husband's voice sent waves of anxiety crashing over her. "What do you mean? What's wrong?" she stammered, panic rising in her chest. But before he could answer, Edward interrupted. "This isn't just about your mother anymore. It's bigger than that. I can explain." Her instinct screamed at her to run. To get away from the man whose smile once felt like sunshine, but now felt like a noose tightening around her neck. "What do you know?" she demanded, her voice strained. "I know everything, Elena," he said softly. "About the family, about the secrets your mother kept. But, more importantly, about your real father." Time stopped. Elena felt the floor beneath her shift. "What?" The word came out in a choked gasp. The room felt suffocating, walls closing in. "Your mother?" Edward continued, dark shadows playing across his face. "Your mother wasn't the woman you thought she was. She hid her past, and her connections run deeper than you realize. Just like yours." Frustration and fear swirled within her. A storm raged both outside and in. "You're lying! I want the truth." In that moment, Edward pulled something from his coat pocket. A photograph, folded and worn like a forgotten memory. He slid it across the table toward her. Elena's fingers trembled as she unfolded it. Staring back at her was a younger version of herself, standing with a man whose eyes mirrored her own. His expression was strikingly familiar. The resemblance was undeniable, the implications suffocating. "No," she breathed, voice barely a whisper. "This can't be." And then the walls around her began to close in. If this was true, everything she believed, her family, her identity, was built on a foundation of lies. The storm outside intensified, a violent reminder of the chaos inside her heart. "Why did you come here?" she managed, her voice quaking. "What do you want from me?" Edward stepped closer, the shadows shifting ominously behind him. "I want you to know who you really are, Elena. And it's time to uncover the truth. But it may come with a cost." As her mind reeled, her phone buzzed again, this time vibrating. Angrily on the table, did she dare to answer? What other truths waited just beyond the door of her reality? The stakes had never been higher, and the answers felt dangerously close, yet so far away. The room felt electric, charged with tension as Elena stared at the photograph. The striking resemblance, the same sharp jawline, the same penetrating eyes, took her breath away. Edward stood, watching her carefully, a flicker of something almost triumphant in his gaze. Elena pierced through the house, echoing from the kitchen below. Hearts raced. "What was that?" Clara gasped, panic written across her face. "We need to check it out." Elena's voice trembled as she darted toward the staircase, every step growing heavier. They raced past Edward, who followed, curiosity mixed with foreboding shadowing his steps. As they descended, the scream morphed into a chaotic chorus of shouts and clattering dishes. They burst into the kitchen, where chaos reigned. Her husband, Tim, stood frozen, mouth agape, staring at a figure sprawled on the floor. "Mom!" he cried out, voice cracking. It's your mother!" Elena's heart dropped as she rushed forward. There, lying crumpled by the kitchen island, was her mother, unconscious, a pool of crimson seeping from her temple. The sight nearly knocked the breath from Elena's lungs. "What happened?" she shouted, panic rising like bile in her throat. "They were arguing," Tim gushed, his face pale. "I heard her screaming. I thought it was just—" But then the front door banged open. An officer stormed in, handcuffed a man who appeared breathless and frantic. Edward's face turned ashen, his previously calm demeanor shattering. "What's going on?" he shouted, backing away as if the man was a ghost from his past. Elena turned to see Tim's face contort in confusion, horror mingling with fear. "You know him, don't you?" Tim accused, pointing at the man. "That's the guy who's been stalking us. The one driving around, lurking outside." "What?" Elena felt the ground sway as crushing disbelief hit. Her, Edward, a trusted friend, tied to a stalker? No. She shook her head, looking between them, trying to piece it together. Her mother lay in a pool of blood, and Edward was caught in a tangled web of lies. Every thread began to fray. "Call an ambulance!" Clara shouted, her voice shaking. "I can explain!" Edward shouted, desperation etched in his features. "I was trying to protect you, all of you. Your mother was mixed up in things, dark things, not just family ties. This is bigger." "And you don't think I need to be protected?" Tim shot back, fury in his eyes. "Your secrets put my wife's mother in danger." Suddenly, as the tension peaked, the man who had just been cuffed spoke, his voice a gravelly whisper that sent chills racing through the room. "You're all in danger. The truth is far worse than you know." Elena felt the walls closing in once more. "What truth?" she gasped, looking back and forth between the men. "Tell me!" But the man gazed toward her, his eyes holding a dark promise. "Your mother was part of an underground network, Elena. She's more than just your mother. She's—" Before he could finish, her mother groaned and began to stir. Eyes fluttering open, panic flooding Elena's heart. "Mom, stay with us!" But just then, the lights flickered, and an ominous crack of thunder reverberated outside. Elena's pulse raced as her mother's eyes locked onto hers, filled with a mix of dread and urgency. "Run, Elena!" her mother gasped, clutching Elena's arm tightly. "Don't let them find you! He's here!" In that moment, nothing felt real. The world spun. Secrets poured in like floodwaters, and the stakes shot through the roof. Who could be trusted? Who was friend and who was foe? The questions churned in her mind like a tempest ready to burst. What was hiding in the shadows? What truth had her mother lived with? And at what cost? "Elena!" Her mother's eyes were wide with fear, a deep urgency pulsing between them. "Run, Elena!" Panic surged through Elena's body. She wanted to do what her mother said, but everything froze around her. Tim's deep breaths were shaky. Clara's hands clutched a kitchen towel, as if it could wipe away the horror. Unfolding. Edward, once a trusted friend, stood awkwardly at the edge of the kitchen, his face pale. Just as she took a step backward, another sound sliced through the chaos. A loud crash from the living room, as if all the furniture had suddenly turned against them. Something heavy had fallen, sending a wave of uncertainty crashing through her. Heart thudding in her chest, she couldn't think. She had to maintain control. "Stay with Mom!" she shouted to Tim, fighting the urge to glance back, knowing if she did, she might lose her nerve. "Clara, call for help!" She didn't know what she expected to find in the living room, but nothing could have prepared her for what lay ahead. As she crossed the threshold, dread washed over her. The shadows danced unnaturally, and a thick, suffocating silence hung in the air. Then she saw him. The man from the kitchen who had been cuffed was now standing, shackles clinking against the floor. His eyes, once holding terror, now burned with rage. "You can't hide from it!" he shouted, voice thick with desperation. "The truth will find its way out!" "What truth?" Elena stepped back, intensity rising in her voice. Then the living room lights flickered again, and that's when she saw it. The thin glimmer of metal near the front window. A gun. A scream tore from her lips as she rushed forward, grabbing a nearby lamp to protect what little safety remained. She knew she didn't have time to think. The man lunged, his movements desperate and wild, the shackles suddenly no longer hindering him. "Mom!" she screamed, hoping her voice could cut through the madness, through the layers of her mother's secrets. But it was too late. The man lost his footing, crashing into the coffee table, sending books and trinkets flying. In that chaotic moment, the unexpected happened. A rush of air, heavy and powerful, filled the room. All at once, like a switch had been flipped, the once frenzied gaze of the man changed. It settled on Edward, then with an expression of recognition, turned deadly serious. You're supposed to be dead!" "What?" Elena's voice trembled. Edward's face drained of color, eyes wide with shock and fear. I can explain." Nothing made sense. The puzzle pieces of their lives twisted into confusion. This was her family's storm, and she was caught at the center of it. "Explain what? That this lunatic wants to kill us?" "It's more complicated than that." Edward's voice cracked. "Trust me, Elena. Please." The man shook his head, taking a step forward, anger rippling through him. "You think she can trust you? Where were you when all of this fell apart?" "Shut up!" Edward shouted back, heated rage flaring in his eyes. With everything spinning, Elena felt her heart racing faster. "Edward?" Or was it someone else they hadn't even seen yet? Edward peered at her, desperation turning his gaze imploring. Elena, I'm your real father. Those words exploded in that stillness like fireworks. Betrayal, confusion, and anguish washed over her all at once. The implications hit her like a tidal wave. No, this has to be a mistake. But the man seized the moment, stepping past the broken table, his gaze locked on Edward. You think you can just walk away from the rot you've sown? Elena felt her world tilting. Who was she really? What did it mean if Edward was her father? Mom, please, she cried out, hoping for clarity, for some tether to the truth. She turned back to her mother, but in that moment of chaos, all she heard was a low thud from the kitchen and a shadow passing through the doorway. Run! Her mother's panicked voice called again, urgency threading through each syllable. Then darkness fell in a rush. The lights went out completely, plunging them into a night filled with confusion and dread, leaving Elena to wonder if the truth, whatever it was, you'd ever set her free or destroy her completely. The room was an abyss of shadows, thick and choking. Elena's heart pounded in her ears as she stood frozen in the darkness. Her breath came in shallow gasps, mingling with the palpable tension that hung in the air. She could feel her mother's fear radiating like heat, pushing her closer to the edge of panic. Run! Her mother's voice pierced through, but she couldn't just leave her. Not when everything hung in the balance. Edward was her father, and the man in the living room, how did he fit into everything? Where was this all going? Just as she turned, a loud crash from the back door startled everyone. The sound echoed like the crack of a whip, slicing through the chaos. And then, the power flickered back on with a sharp zap, illuminating the room in brutal clarity. Elena saw the stranger standing tall, fists clenched, eyes blazing. He was not just a man, but a whirlwind of anger and fear. Edward stepped forward, his face a mask of cool defiance. "Stop this!" he yelled, but no one listened. The stranger shouted, rage dripping from every word. "You're the reason this happened. You think I would let you take her away again?" Elena felt the air grew thick, suffocating her. "What are you talking about?" she managed to whisper, confusion knotting her stomach. In that instant, reality shattered. The stranger lunged, shouting again, "Your mother isn't the woman you think she is. She's been hiding you from the truth all along." A shudder ran through Elena. "Stop it!" she yelled, but her heart sank as the fear coursed through her veins. What truth? Time to wake up. He reached into his pocket and in a flash pulled out a small ornate box. He tossed it onto the floor. It cracked open, spilling a swirl of vibrant colors. Inside was a tangled mass of old photographs, a silver locket, and something else. Paperwork that looked like an ancient family tree. The name Elena stared back at her, alongside names she didn't recognize. "What is this?" she gasped, picking up the frayed edges with trembling fingers. "Proof," he said, voice dripping with disdain. "Proof that you're not just anyone. You're part of something far more dangerous. Your mother." He pointed a finger like a dagger at her mother, who remained pale and trembling on the floor. "Your mother was in the organization. She's been playing you all this time, not just with Edward, but with everyone, keeping you in the dark about your real legacy." The room went dead silent. Elena could hear the ticking of the wall clock, each tick a question that echoed in her mind. Her mother? part of an organization? This was madness! I had to keep you safe. Her mother's voice broke through the stillness. She was trying to rise, face etched in pain. I had to protect you from them. Protect me from what? Elena's voice trembled, desperation seeping through. What do you mean? Suddenly, a loud banging resounded against the back door, shaking the house. The stranger's expression went icy, his eyes darting back to the sound, as if his entire world had shifted once more. They're here, he hissed, panic replacing his bravado. We have to get out now. Edward stepped forward, slowly, hands raised. No one is going anywhere until the truth is out. You can't just... But he didn't finish. The kitchen door flew open, revealing a dark figure that loomed large against the light behind him. Thunder crashed, rattling the windows. A thunderclap that felt ominous. Elena, the voice called out, deep and menacing. It's time to come home. That voice sent chills down her spine. The realization struck her harder than any blow. She turned to her mother, eyes full of panic and betrayal. Who is that? Her mother's eyes darted, her lips parted, like she wanted to scream. No, it can't be him! Elena felt her heart drop. Next to her, Tim stared wide-eyed. Clara gasped, and even Edward looked uncertain. Darkness wrapped around them like a suffocating blanket. Elena, the voice called again, now stepping into the light and revealing a face she couldn't escape. Someone she once loved. Someone she thought was dead. Warmth and betrayal collided inside her. How could this be happening? What truth lay buried deeper than she could ever imagine? The room pulsed with anxiety as Elena stared at the familiar face emerging from the shadows. It was her father, David. For as long as she could remember, she thought he was gone. A car accident, her mother had said. But here he was. Not just alive, but a figure of looming danger. Dad? The words slipped from her lips, bewildered and trembling, as memories of childhood floods rushed back, intertwining with raw confusion. Is it really you? Elena's heart raced as David stepped into the light, revealing the wear of time etched on his face, lines of worry that hadn't been there before. Elena, listen to me. His voice came out firm, yet choked, yet the urgency in his eyes made her stomach churn. You need to come with me. Now. It's not safe here. She felt like the ground beneath her shifted. Her mother, barely recovering from the shock, gasped, No, you can't take her. The tension coiled tighter. Edward moved in front of Elena, a lion defending its territory. Stay away from her! But David just chuckled, a vacuous laugh that cut through the air and made everyone freeze. Protecting her? Is that what you really think you're doing? You're just a shadow of the past. David shot back, breathless but burning with some fervor. A surge of anger bubbled. Within Elena, you're the one making a mess of everything. Why did you disappear? Where the hell have you been? Before David could answer, the front door burst open again, and time froze. A group of men flooded into the room, faces obscured by dark hoods. The sudden intrusion sent echoes of gasps and a familiar scream erupting from her mother's lips. Not them! They're here! Panic surged like a tidal wave. The room became chaos. Tim stood defensively in front of Clara, who clutched her phone like a lifeline, ready to call for help. What do you want? He shouted, commanding but shaking beneath the surface. One of the men stepped forward, his voice low and cruel. We're not interested in you, just her. He pointed directly at Elena, and she felt a chill of terror crawl down her spine. David snapped back at them. What did you come for? You can't just take her. No, it's too late, the man responded, a cruel smile splitting his face. The truth will come out. You've all been living in the dark for too long. He turned to Elena, eyes gleaming with madness. Your past is catching up to you, little girl. Fury boiled inside her, boiling over her shock. What do you want from me? Everything, he answered, flipping a small device in his hands that began to blink ominously. And your mother knows it all. She's kept everything hidden, but we're here to expose the truth, once and for all. Just as the words hit, a piercing scream erupted from the kitchen. Clara darted toward the sound, but was stopped by David, grabbing her wrist tightly. No, stay here. Elena's heart leapt into a strangled rhythm. Mom, she cried, but before she could react, the lights blinked again, plunging the room into darkness, punctuated only by the eerie glow of the device in the man's hand. Dad, what the hell is happening? She shouted, panic clawing her throat as quick footsteps moved closer. The shadows shifted, and in a heartbeat, she felt something wrap around her wrist, a grip firm and unyielding. I'm so sorry, David whispered, eyes wide, yet there was something haunting behind them, something darker she hadn't expected. In that moment, everything turned upside down. Dad, it's not what you think, he breathed. The device in the man's hand emitted a series of low beeps. And then, silence fell heavy. With a jarring rush, light flooded back, but it came with an electric shock, causing everyone to stumble backward. A deafening blast erupted from the device. Sparks flew everywhere. As the chaos unfolded, Elena felt her father's grip loosen, the tension snapping. She looked up, and there it was, his eyes, filled not with paternal instinct, but cold calculation. Forgive me, Elena, he muttered, voice betraying an emotion that felt distant now, almost manipulated by the very people they fought against. But it was too late. The room shuddered as the door flew open again, and with it, the realization crashed over her. Everything she thought she knew, the love, the safety, ripped apart like a fragile tapestry. She stood there frozen, confusion breaking through her resolve. Why? She whispered. Then the men advanced. The stakes rose high, a nightmare swirling around her. David moved toward her, eyes fierce, but something shifted behind him. The power flickering briefly before overcoming the darkness. By the time it steadied, David had vanished, and a new face emerged in the doorway. An unfamiliar woman, cloaked in shadows, smirked as she stepped forward, her presence swallowing the air. "Hello, Elena," she said, voice silky but dangerous. "You're not as safe as you think. Your real question is, will you fight or flee?" And in that moment, her world flipped again. Who was this woman? What did she want? With every heartbeat, the walls began to close in, and Elena felt the weight of secrets thrumming beneath the surface, threatening to burst wide open. What truth had she walked into? And who was really in control now? Elena stood frozen, heart pounding as the woman stepped closer, the air thick with unspoken truths and hidden dangers. This stranger, cloaked in shadows, had a predatory smile that made her skin crawl. "You're not as safe as you think," she repeated, her voice dripping with a calm that felt unsettling. "What do you mean?" Elena tried to keep her voice steady, but it trembled like a leaf in the wind. "Your legacy," the woman said, glancing at the men who had stormed in. Your family is tied to a history that goes far beyond this fractured little home. It's time you learned just how deep those roots go." Before Elena could respond, the chaotic sound erupted from the direction of the kitchen. A loud crash, followed by her mother's anguished scream. Panic seized her chest. "Mom!" But when she turned back, everything changed in an instant. The woman snapped her fingers, and an explosion of heat blasted through the room, knocking everyone off their feet. The lights again flickered, going black for a breathless moment. Elena hit the floor, her heart racing faster than she thought possible. She pushed herself up, eyes darting as chaos erupted around her. A cacophony of shouting mingled with the sound of breaking glass. "Get down!" David shouted, his voice urgent. "Where is she?" Edward's shout cut through the darkness, laced with desperation. In the midst of the turmoil, a figure appeared out of the shadows, moving with an eerie finesse. It was Clara, but her eyes were wild, face twisted in both fear and anger. She held something in her hand, a glint of metal catching the light just as the power returned. "Clara?" Elena's voice broke, eyes wide. "What was she holding?" "It's not what you think," Clara yelled back, her other hand pulling something from behind her. The entire room silenced for a split second when Clara lifted her hand to reveal the truth. A gun. A gasp swept through the group like a chilling breeze. "What are you doing?" Tim shouted, protective instincts flaring. But Clara's face was resolute, eyes shining with a fierce light. "You all need to listen. The truth is, I am not who you think I am," she hissed, her voice steady, yet filled with an urgency that made Elena's blood run cold. "What?" Elena stammered, heart racing as she felt her entire world tip on its axis. "I'm part of it all. I was sent to keep an eye on your mother, to make sure she didn't reveal everything," Clara said, each word slicing through the tension. "And now I'm here to protect you." The man from earlier stepped forward, a smirk of disbelief painting his face. "You think you can protect her? You've only made things worse, Clara." Elena couldn't process what was happening. "You?" she gasped, eyes darting back and forth. "You were supposed to be my friend." "I was a friend, Elena," Clara said, her voice thick with emotion. "But things changed. What do you mean by that?" David interrupted, voice low and volatile. His eyes locked onto Clara, and in that moment, a new layer of fear layered over the chaos. Clara's aim wavered, uncertainty flooding her expression. As if sensing the shift, the cloaked woman chuckled softly. "Oh, you didn't truly think she was just a friend." "Did you? She's been playing all sides, just like your mother." The revelation hit hard, ringing like a bell in the air. "What do you mean?" Elena demanded, voice rising. "It's time to show her, Clara," the woman prompted, her eyes dancing with malice. And then Clara turned the gun toward herself, indecision etched across her face. "I never wanted to hurt anyone, but there's so much more at stake than you realize." "Elena!" David shouted, and in that moment, everything shattered. Clara's fingers slipped, and the gun went off with a deafening bang. Time slowed. The world faded into a whirlpool of confusion and horror as everything spiraled out of her control. "Clara!" Elena screamed as she rushed forward, desperation clawing at her throat. The gun fell from Clara's hand, clattering to the floor just as her body slumped. A mixture of disbelief and betrayal etched on her face. "No!" Elena's world tilted again. Was Clara the enemy, or a friend lost to something darker? What truth had just been unleashed, buried beneath layers of lies. And who could she trust now when everything felt like a cruel game? As Clara's breath hitched, Elena knelt beside her, desperate to piece together what had just happened. A truth that may never come to light. The room closed in around her as uncertainty churned, and dread swept through her veins. What had she stumbled into? And would she ever find the truth? Or was she destined to remain forever in this maelstrom of secrets? Elena knelt beside Clara, disbelief flooding her senses as the chaos unfolded around her. The silence felt like a heavy blanket suffocating every breath. Clara's eyes, once filled with a flicker of determination, now glazed over, becoming distant. "Stay with me," Elena pleaded, shaking. "Her gently." But Clara didn't respond, her body growing limp. Panic clawed at Elena's insides, ripping through her heart. "Somebody help!" she yelled, voice cracking. Tim stepped forward, instinctively moving to Clara's side. But something in the air shifted. It felt electric, tingling at the edges of their fear, as if the very walls were holding their breath. Then, an unexpected sound, a low hum that vibrated through the floor, sending a shudder through the room. "What is that?" Tim asked, scanning the space. Before anyone could answer, the air crackled, thickening with tension. The cloaked woman looked at the group, eyes narrowing as if piecing together a puzzle. "You don't know what you're really dealing with," she hissed. Suddenly, the ground trembled, reverberating like thunder. Everyone staggered. Losing their balance for a moment, David clutched the doorway, panic flickering across his face. "What's happening?" he shouted. But the answer came from an unexpected source. The glint from the device on the ground began to pulse, brighter and brighter, until it enveloped the room in a blinding light. Elena threw her arms over her face, feeling heat radiating from it. Then, darkness. The light was sucked out, leaving them in a void so deep, so complete, that it felt like suffocating on nothingness. A swirling sound surrounded them like a tornado. Terror coursed through Elena. "Is everyone okay?" she called out, her voice trembling. "Where are we?" Tim's voice came from the shadows, but it sounded distant. Elena squinted into the black, heart pounding as the swirl began to ease into shapes, faint outlines materializing in her sight. And then she saw them, faces that stirred memories long buried. "Elena?" a soft, familiar voice whispered, cutting through the fog. "My sweet girl." Time halted. The air turned electric as Elena stepped forward, stunned. "No," she breathed. It was her grandmother, the woman she hadn't seen since she was a child. How is this possible?" Elena gasped, eyes welling with tears. Her grandmother, appearing as radiant as the last time she saw her, reached out, brushing a hand along Elena's cheek. A gentle touch that felt both comforting and alien. "You have to understand, you are part of something far bigger than you realize." "Are you real?" she dared to ask, hope flaring. Alongside doubt. "Yes," her grandmother affirmed. Yet the truth felt woven with strands of deceit. "But you need to remember, your legacy isn't just a burden, it's a calling." Everything Elena thought she knew shattered in this moment. Before she could respond, the clamor of the room roared back to life, the chaos of the kitchen thundering into existence. Clara's body slipped from her fingers, and in that instant, the cloaked woman lunged at her grandmother. "No, get away." David yelled, stepping in front. But it all blurred. The moment exploded. A whirlwind of sound and motion filled the air, spinning them into confusion. Then silence fell again as the energy in the room shifted, distant but undeniable. Elena's heart raced as she tried to process what was happening. But then her grandmother smiled at her. "They're here," she said softly, "and it's time for you to choose your path." The air felt heavy with expectation. Choose? The word lingered, teetering on the edge of confusion. Then Clara gasped. "Elena!" The urgency in her voice returned. Just then, everything cascaded into darkness once more. But not before the pulsing device erupted with a furious glow. Elena stumbled back, a sudden dread dawning in her chest. "What is this?" She shouted into the void, desperate for answers. "You have to decide," her grandmother's voice echoed. "Fight or fly!" The device crackled, and just when Elena thought she would lose everything, a deafening boom erupted. In a blinding flash, the colorful light engulfed her entire being. Bewhirled, warped, twisting into something else entirely. Then, silence and stillness. All she could think about were the swirling claims of legacy, of truths that felt like shackles. What was she even a part of? When the light faded, they were no longer in the kitchen. They stood in a vast empty hall. It felt ancient. Echoes of voices faded like whispers. The air thickened with secrets unsaid. Elena looked around, pulse racing. What just happened? But her grandmother was gone. Instead, the cloaked figure stood before her, a wild smile cracking across her features like a jagged edge. "Welcome to the truth," she said, eyes alight with chaos. "It's chaos, isn't it? But you're one of us now. Time to choose, dear." "Choose what?" Elena gasped, heart in her throat. And then she saw herself reflected in the walls, standing tall and proud, yet yearning for liberation. Who was she now? Who had she become? Before she could fathom an answer, the woman's laugh echoed, reverberating through the hall like a sinister melody. "Time waits for no one," she whispered, her gaze piercing. "The real game is just beginning." Elena felt the ground tremble again. The walls began to close in. Would she stand her ground, or would she run? The choice was hers, and as the shadows danced, she knew she had to decide. What legacy awaited her, and who was truly in control? Elena stood there, breath hitching in her chest, as the cloaked woman's smirk widened ominously. "Welcome to the truth," she repeated, each word a drumbeat echoing in the hushed room. The air buzzed with the aftermath of Clara's fall, a blend of confusion and dread swirling around them. Elena's eyes flicked to the shadows that seemed to pulse, hungry for answers. "What do you mean? What truth?" The woman laughed lightly, as if they were sharing a joke. "The kind that reveals how small you really are. Your family's legacy isn't about power, Elena. It's about manipulations, secret agendas, loyalties bought and sold." Her words dripped like poison, igniting something deep inside Elena, a spark of anger. "Stop speaking in riddles. What does this have to do with me?" "Everything," the woman snapped, her voice now sharp as glass. "You are the linchpin, the one that can bring it all down or prop it all up. Choose wisely." Elena felt her heart race, an angry flush crawling up her neck. "You're just playing games! Where's my mother? Where's Clara?" But before she could comprehend anything more, the ground trembled again, a low growl simmering beneath their feet. A crack sounded through the air, and suddenly The ornate walls around them began to split, like the earth itself was sighing in pain. Out of the fissuring wall, a huge, bright light burst forth, engulfing everything. Elena shielded her eyes, feeling heat pulse from the light, and then, boom! The explosion crashed around her. Debris fell like rain, and an instant later, the chaos settled, leaving Elena standing amidst the dim glow. Then came a voice, one she couldn't place, but felt the weight of like an anchor dropped into her stomach. "You're all too late!" She turned, and there he was, Edward, framed against the snarling shadows, authoritative and unyielding. The tension thickened as realization struck like a slap. "Edward? Enough of this," he said, voice low, eyes blazing like suns. "You need to know the truth about Clara." "What about Clara?" Panic shot through her, a tightness in her chest spreading into her throat. "Clara," he began, his brows creased, "is not just your mother's ally. She was sent to watch you. But there's more. She's been feeding them information." The words hit her like a punch. No, she couldn't, she wouldn't. Each denial felt feeble, crumbling under the weight of Edward's truth. Then a growl erupted overhead. The ceiling trembled. A monstrous figure swung from the shadows, crashing down like a fallen star. David, breathing hard, rage emanating from him. "No more lies!" Elena's heart sank. "Dad!" The word came out as a plea, but the fury behind David's gaze turned her voice to stone. "Edward has been lying to you all along," David shouted. "You can't trust him." Laughter bubbled from the cloaked woman. "You're all just players in a much larger game." "You think this revolves around trust? It's about who can survive." Elena felt her body shake, tension coiling tighter. "What do you know? Who are you?" But before the woman could respond, her eyes darted back with alarm at David. There was something familiar in their gaze, something dangerous, and then it hit her like ice water. David wasn't just her father. He was the leader of this underground network. The shock cascaded through her. You were the one behind it all?" "For your own safety," David roared, but there was an edge, a crack in his armor. "You didn't understand then. You don't understand now." The walls rattled again, as if the very foundation trembled with disbelief. And then, through the chaos, a small light blinked from Clara's pocket. It flickered, and with it a distant voice whispered through the cracks. "Elena, find me! Find me!" Elena breathed, her heart racing, mind spinning. Who was whispering? Was it Clara? But then, like a jolt, the cloaked woman lunged for David. Anger coursing through her. "You're not alone, Elena. What if I told you the truth is worse than you could imagine?" The floor quaked, and outside, an echo of sirens wailed in the distance. "Elena, it's time to choose," the woman hissed. In the midst of the swirling chaos, Elena felt a teetering weight, a choice that could change everything. Would she trust her father, or walk into the open arms of a stranger who claimed the truth was worse? Questions spiraled around her, and for a moment, time froze. Who would she become in this unraveling web of lies? And would she be strong enough to face whatever secrets awaited her? Elena's heart hammered in her chest as the chaos erupted around her. Voices collided, anger boiling, like a storm ready to burst. Yet deep within her, she felt a moment of clarity sink in. She'd had enough. Enough of the lies. Enough of the fear that bound her like chains. "Stop!" she shouted, cutting through the tumult. Voices hushed, eyes snapping toward her, disbelief written all over their faces. The woman, cloaked and intimidating, stepped back, surprise flickering across her features. "You've manipulated everyone for too long," Elena continued, pointing a finger, voice rising with each word. "This is my life. I will choose my own path." The air felt electric, charged with possibility. David's gaze softened, a crack in his once steadfast defense. "Elena," he started, but she shook her head, feeling the weight of the moment. "No, Dad, I've been held in the shadows for too long. You have to trust me. I need to know the truth, all of it." Elizabeth, the cloaked woman, snickered, but a hint of respect flickered in her eyes. "You think you can handle the truth? It's more than you can imagine." But Elena was determined, resolute. "Show me." As if the universe responded, the very walls vibrated again, rattling loose dust from the corners. In that instant, Clara's lifeless body faded into a warm light. A memory of what could have been. "About me anymore, Dad. It's about all of us. Let's end this cycle of deception." She turned back to the room, each face stricken with a mixture of anxiety and hope. "I won't be a pawn. We can expose this all together." A stunned silence blanketed the group, the tension vibrating in the air. The shadows of deceit hung low, but she saw a flicker of something beneath it. Courage. "Okay," David said, finally breaking with conviction. "Then we will face it together. Let the truth shine." For her ground. "No more," she shouted. "If you want the truth to come out, you better back down." With a sudden flash, the device on the ground exploded in a whirl of color, enveloping the room in blinding light. Elena felt herself pulled forward, grappling with the maelstrom of revelations that flooded her mind. Time slipped away, reality compressed, and the essence of everything shifted. She found herself standing, surrounded by swirling colors. Sounds of hurt and laughter echoing all around. Then came a voice, soft yet firm. "Elena, you are stronger than you know." It was Clara, vivid against the vivid chaos, a face she could cherish rather than fear. "I'm ready," Elena whispered, feeling an unshakable strength coursing through her veins. "I will embrace the truth." Another burst of light, and the world morphed until she was back in the dilapidated attic. Everything eerily still, dust dancing lazily in beams of sunlight. But there was no doubt in her heart now. The truth was out, and she had a choice to make. The walls that once felt like they held her captive no longer seemed so intimidating. They stood before her not as barriers, but as bridges. She'd honor Clara's memory and expose the dark threads that had woven through their lives. "Thank you," she said softly. No longer a girl trapped in shadows, but a warrior stepping into the light. As her heart swelled with determination, she knew this was not just an end, but a beginning. She would not run. She would face it all. Elena inhaled deeply, grounding herself. She'd fight for her family, for the truth, for herself. The shadows were still lurking, but they no longer ruled her life. And now, a new dawn awaited. You have to subscribe right now to the channel so you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about the ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. This is the moment to show your support. And don't wait even 1 more second to share this. Only real fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.